We're addressing racism in nursing.
My name is Elias Provencio Vasquez, and I am a Hispanic male nurse. I've been a nurse for 40 years. I first entered nursing school in 1978. My parents are from Mexico, grew up in El Paso, Texas, till I was 6. And then as a family, we moved to Phoenix, Arizona. I remember going to elementary school and there was very few white students, maybe one or two in the entire college or entire high school, because the majority were African American and Hispanic. When I was growing up, all of the teachers, all of the policemen, all of the people in power and in authority back then were white people. Spanish was my first language. I didn't learn English till I went to kindergarten. And in my home, we spoke Spanish because my parents didn't speak English. And I remember speaking Spanish in class one day, and the kindergarten teacher came and hit me in the back of my head and said to me, "We don't speak Spanish in this classroom." And I remember that. And so I struggled with then learning to speak English. So what brought me to nursing was when I was still in high school, I worked in a cafeteria of a hospital or in the kitchen of a hospital. I worked in the kitchen of a hospital, and my job was to take the food trays out to the floors of the hospital so that then the nurses could pass them out to the patients. So after I worked in the kitchen at the hospital, then I became a transporter. So I would move patients around the hospital, take specimens to the lab, those types of things. So that really gave me a lot more exposure to nurses and other healthcare providers within a county hospital in Phoenix, Arizona. All of the providers, all of the nurses, all of the physicians were white. But I really got to engage with them even more since I was part of the team. So I really got a lot of exposure to nurses. And that's when the nurses started really encouraging me to go to nursing school. I was 25 years old, so I was an older student. I did go to a community college to start my higher education. If I would have not had that opportunity, I would have never gone to college. And I remember 3 white faculty that were probably, well, I know they were the mentors who really pushed me and supported me. One was Miss Baker. I remember her. She was an OB/GYN faculty member. The other faculty member that I remember and really made a difference in my nursing career was Miss Berkeley. She was a ex-military nurse. She was a med-surg faculty member. The third faculty member at this community college was Miss Collins. Miss Collins was way ahead of her time. She was very, very stylish. She was one courageous woman. She was an ex-ICU nurse. She's the one that encouraged me to go get my BSN. So these 3 faculty members who were white women back in the late 70s, early 80s really made a difference in my career. I think I was the one that sometimes challenged myself. Do I really belong here? I remember when I was a doctoral student at the University of Arizona, I questioned myself in the hallway sometimes walking to my professor's office saying, do I really belong here? So it was me more than anyone else that challenged the belongingness of being part of a group or of an organization. Am I smart enough? I think the smart enough piece always came up in my self-doubts of the do I belong here? And I'll share a personal experience with you that probably didn't make that any better. So I remember, since I'm my mother's only son, I have 6 sisters. I remember when I was in my doctoral program at the University of Arizona, I came home one weekend for the holiday. And I remember that part of the conversation that was going on in my family was that I thought I was better than anyone else because I was the only one that went to college. You don't know how that hurt so bad because I was one of them. I've always been one of them. And just because I read 2 or 3 more books than anyone else didn't make me any better. And it was a conversation that my mother and I had. And she was just sharing with me that some of the conversations my sisters and their husbands were having about me. Oh, he's coming home this weekend. And I remember that so clearly how hurt I was. And that really, again, challenged my mind is, do I really belong at the University of Arizona in the doctoral program? If my own family is doubting who I am, do I really belong? Where do I belong? Do I belong with my family or do I belong in higher education in the PhD program? And I remember I struggled for about a month, really, very emotional about that. And I realized that I belonged in both places. So that was an experience that I will always remember as well. And I remember those moments when we talk about inclusion and belonging and making someone part of your team and who you are. And that's very powerful to me. It felt like I had to make a choice. Absolutely. And then I had to question myself. So what am I doing while I'm with my family that makes them think I'm better than them? It's not like I came home and talked about all these theories and all these concepts that I was learning in my doctoral program. It's not like I came home and had that conversation with them, but I wondered, what was I doing or how was I acting that made them feel that way? And come to realize that there was nothing that I really was doing other than I was a doctoral student at the University of Arizona. I do remember sharing with my family the long hours that I studied, the exams that I took, the oral dissertation exam that I was preparing for. I shared my experiences of how hard it was to be a PhD student with them, but not what I've learned. So there was a short time that I really felt I needed to make a decision where I really belong, and then realized that I can belong in both places. And I think that was my tipping point, that I could belong in both places and be successful. My first experience with, I would say, discrimination and racism was in academia. I remember my first academic appointment in Texas. I was a faculty member, and I remember where it happened and who said it. And there was a faculty member in front of other faculty members who said that the only reason I was hired was because I was a token. And by the way, I didn't even know what that token word meant. And I remember kind of giggling nervously because I didn't know, what do you say to something like that? Is that a positive comment or is that a negative comment? I've come to realize now that it was a very negative comment. And I was one of the very few, even now in that university, there's very few faculty of color. Back then, I was one of maybe 2. And so I remember that clearly, or making comments that you didn't get to this level because of working hard. You got to this level because you're male and because you're Hispanic. And I think I've always carried that with me even now, that I hope that people, that faculty, that staff, that my colleagues appreciate and acknowledge that I've worked hard to get to where I'm at, and not because I'm male or because I'm Hispanic. Mm-hmm. So that experience has always been very close to me. When I walk the hall or when I meet a new faculty member, that I hope that they can appreciate that I've worked hard to get to the level that I'm at. It's called ganas in Spanish. when I was the dean at the University of Texas in El Paso, prior to my arrival here at University of Colorado, the 80% of those students were Mexican American. And we talked about ganas, having ganas. And I've always wanted to see what that word was in English. And it isn't self-drive, it isn't motivation, it's what I finally realized it was, and I asked a lot of people, what is a translation of ganas? It's grit. That's the thing that has always kept me moving on when I faced many challenges in my career and in my education. Is that ganas is you pick yourself up and you keep moving no matter how difficult it is. I will never forget where I came from, and I think that's what makes me the person, the leader, the nurse that I am today. I am very humbled, and I will never forget my childhood or the many mentors that I've had throughout my career, so I bring it with me. That's who I am. I have to share with you, I've been criticized or given feedback that I'm too nice, either as a leader or as a nurse practitioner or as a dean, but that's who I am. I can't change that. And I get concerned that people who say that to me are confusing being weak with being just a nice human being. But I have to share with you also that being a nice human being has taken me far and has really made a difference of the people that I surround myself with.